Welcome back. 4 days till the first test of the 2012 election season. It's anybody's game, really. Iowa, known to be conservative, and that helped former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee take it in 2008. So who will conservatives choose this time around? Steve Brown is live in Des Moines, Iowa with more. Steve, Iowans seem a bit split among several Republican candidates. Is there not one that they can get behind?
Certainly, and you just mentioned his name, Mike Huckabee. He was the guy in '08 who cobbled together a substantial portion of the social conservative community here in Iowa and rode that tide to victory in the '08 caucuses. And there were an awful lot of folks heartbroken that he didn't run, and a lot of folks looking for somebody exactly like him. Now, a lot of campaigns have made inroads into the social conservative, evangelical conservative community, but they've all got pieces of it, not the whole thing, or certainly not a substantial amount like Huckabee did 4 years ago.
Is there a candidate, Steve, who increasingly seems to have an edge with social conservatives?
It's coming late, but Rick Santorum does look like he is starting to pick up rather large swaths, as it's been described to me, of Huckabee's old organization and has been able to tap into some of those networks. It's a little bit late in the game, but he is surging, and some polling data may suggest to some folks that the reason that he is surging is that he has started to cobble together bits and pieces of the Huckabee organization. Not all of it. I can tell you that the Huckabee backers from 4 years ago are kind of scattered about the landscape in terms of candidates, but it does look like with increasing frequency that Santorum is starting to pick up some of those pieces.
Well, if Santorum wins, maybe it'll be known as pulling a Huckabee. Thanks very much.
Maybe.
Thanks very much, Steve Brown in Des Moines.
And pulling a Huckabee or not, he is catching fire at precisely the right time. Rick Santorum, white hot right now in Iowa. Rick Perry, Michelle Bachmann fading, Herman Cain out of the picture entirely. Santorum is picking up support from key conservatives, as you just heard, and evangelical voters.
We're going to do better than everyone thought we were going to do a week ago. Much better, and that's all that I can say. And I'm just very grateful to the people of Iowa. We've had some great crowds here and a lot of great response, and we feel like we're going to get that spark. How big, I don't know, but we're going to keep working hard. You know, we don't have the resources all the other candidates have right now, but that's changing too.
And right now, the undecided vote in Iowa, a key target for all candidates, seemingly supporting Mitt Romney, but Rick Santorum gaining ground. Jonathan Caliglio, he is a former press secretary for the National Republican Congressional Committee and now director of communications for American Crossroads, and Doug Schoen, a former pollster and for President Clinton and a Fox News contributor, and they join us now. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
And Happy New Year in advance.
Same to you.
So it looks like New Year coming a little bit early for Rick Santorum, and it looks like it's working out for him. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, if you actually go back to May when the debates first started, you'll find that Rick Santorum has actually had a lot of great debate performances. He's been one of the top debaters, and I think that the reason why his candidacy hasn't caught on until now is because he's had, frankly, a difficult time raising money. I think that that's because his last re-election race for the Senate in 2006, he lost that. Now, that was a tough year for Republicans across the country, but especially in Pennsylvania. I think that House Republicans lost 4 seats in Pennsylvania in 2006. So that's really the millstone around Rick Santorum's neck, is that he lost his last bid for political office. But compared to some of the other candidates out there, that's not all that heavy of a millstone. So right now, at this moment, it's good to see that he's peaking. He's got a lot of energy, and I think that folks are really focusing on his strengths right now, which is that he's a good debater. He's a very, very sincere conservative, a very, very sincere pro-lifer, and I think that there's a huge reservoir desire for a sincere candidate like that.
Doug, has it been a problem of resources for Rick Santorum, or what do you think is the central challenge to his campaign?
Well, there have been 2 challenges. First, there have been a number of frontrunners in Iowa before him who have drawn his vote, whether they be Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, Newt Gingrich. That's really been a key issue. And the other issue is Santorum is running heavily, indeed almost totally, on social issues. And it's hard at a time when the economy is in recession to make the case that you should nominate someone because of their position on gay marriage or abortion. I respect his views, but I'm not sure that that's enough to propel him into the first tier of candidates.
And Jonathan, what about that? Is the evangelical, the social conservative vote, is that enough?
Well, I think that what you're seeing with Rick Santorum on the social conservative, evangelical, gospel-centered conservative side is very much the same thing as you're seeing with Ron Paul on the fiscal side. There are a lot of these voters who really want to see a candidate speak his heart, really speak his mind, and they see that in Rick Santorum in the same way as many people see that in Ron Paul. People are hungry for that. They really want to see a candidate who will stick up for what they believe in, and right now they're seeing that in Rick Santorum. The question is whether or not he can finish first or second. That'll really catapult him into a good position in New Hampshire. And you have to remember, I mean, after Iowa, after the caucuses on Tuesday, this field is going to thin out quite a bit. So he really needs that first or second place finish to really catapult him into the next couple of contests.
And Doug, I want to get your take on that as we move forward from Iowa into New Hampshire. In terms of who comes in last place in Iowa, will this really do them in?
Well, yes, I think the candidates who finish at the bottom of the pack will be done in. And I agree that Rick Santorum really needs to finish in the first two or very, very close third to be a viable candidate and a strong viable candidate going forward. If he does, there's a reservoir of social conservatives if he makes it to Florida and South Carolina. But if he doesn't, you've got Ron Paul and Mitt Romney who are absolutely leading the pack in every poll. And if they win first and second by a commanding margin, it'll be increasingly difficult for Santorum to continue as a viable candidate, notwithstanding his very real surge now.
And what about Newt Gingrich? I mean, he's fallen drastically in the polls. You know, we still have all those undecided voters out there. Do you think that Newt Gingrich can come back around and recover? Jonathan?
I think he can. I mean, this is a fellow who, I mean, as long as there are debates on the calendar, Newt Gingrich will be able to thrive because that really is his environment. He wants to be debating as much as possible. He's going to make a very, very strong play for South Carolina. Remember, he's from Georgia, so he really is going to make a play for those southern states. And he's also, I think, leading some polls in Florida. So don't count Gingrich out yet. I don't think anybody should do that. I heard Dick Morris on Fox News a couple days ago saying that people count Gingrich out for dead and that he may come back, and I think that that's the case. I think that there could be a second rising of Newt Gingrich at some point.
Yeah, they counted him out when his campaign staffers quit. They all came back around, and so yeah,
This would be a third rising.
Yeah, the third rising, I think is what it would be. And as we wrap up, just quickly from both of you, prediction, what do you think will happen? Who's going to win Iowa?
I think. I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think Ron Paul has a more dedicated and mobilized force of supporters and workers than Mitt Romney, so I'm predicting a narrow Ron Paul victory.
All right, Ron Paul. And Jonathan, you?
I think it'll likely be Romney. I mean, Ron Paul has a lot of support there. Romney's leading in most of the most recent polls. But however, Rick Santorum really coming on strong. He could win this thing depending on his momentum going into the final days.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?